Hello and welcome to another episode of What's Inside. Today we are looking at some Elvis bubblegum cards. Inside we're going to get a stick of bubblegum and some cards. These are Collector Series. These were put out by Boxcar Enterprises in 1978. Distributed by Donruss. So these were shortly after Elvis's death. Within a year or so. I think he died in 77. And these were obviously meant to be some sort of commemorative thing. Elvis was still pretty popular when he died, so it was pretty tragic at the time. So we've got the Donruss standard Super Bubble ad on the back. And that's really all we got. These. Oh, Donruss is in Memphis, where Graceland is. So that probably helped them a little bit to when somebody wanted to get the cards made. So let's open these up and see how they look now. I had a couple packs of these when I was a kid. They were still floating around. Now remember, since these are from 1978, this gum is not good. So be aware of that. And you'll want to be careful when opening these, as always. I go over this every time, and I'm going to keep doing it. Because some people do collect the wax wrappers, and these are heat sealed, so you just got to carefully lift them up so they don't rip. And it's sometimes easier said than done. But these are opening fairly easily, actually. Oop, ripped that one a little bit. It's always the corners. Alright, that's stuck, so you gotta gently lift up. And this gum is really disgusting. It tends to stick to the packaging. These thinner ones were always more of a pain to get off. So you just gotta carefully work it back and forth a little bit and hope you don't rip the paper. It dinged it a little bit. Now these older ones also had sharp corners, so you'll want to check the paper to make sure it didn't damage it. This one did. You can see a little puncture wound here, and another one up here where the edge of the gum was. It's a little hard to see, but there is some residue on the wrapper from the confectioner sugar and the actual gum adhering to it. The confectioner sugar usually helped to keep it from sticking, but that dried up over time. The corners are a little scuffed up, so this probably wouldn't be a display one, but it might be a backup. This corner is split here where the cards poke through, but you can't see too well the little tiny cut that it put in there, and the other one is pretty hard to see. So fairly average wrapper, but somebody might want it. Who knows? So inside we've got 2, 4, 6, 7 cards. Looks like 7. It doesn't say on the outside, so let's see what we've got here. We've got number 57. There's 66 cards in the set. Elvis's Records, number 57. So it's got a real 70s look to it. The way the stars are out and the big arches, but it kind of looks vintage cool now. So if you're into 70s stuff or retro 70s, this is definitely something to keep in mind. And look at the cropping, the framing, the way it draws your attention to his hand, and the other hand is in shadow within this like vignette here, and the way he's looking off to the side. That's really well done. That's very professional shot. And you're going to see that through all the cards, because these are very well put together cards for a singer, especially. A lot of the musicians didn't have as good at cards. I think Kiss had pretty good cards too, but these are some of the best as far as like photo cards that I've ever seen, because of the way the cropping is done is so well done. They really took their time, found some great shots to put in here. A lot of the movie cards don't even take anywhere near this level of effort. So on the back we've got the standard thing where they give you a little factoids, like this one is Elvis's Records. So it's got some of his songs here, or album titles. March through November 1971. These must be his hits. And then it's got a little picture of Elvis with Collect All 66 and the copyright information for Donruss and Boxcar. I think that's just Boxcar. It says Elvis at the top. The design is simple, and the negative space is used to highlight, let the white pop out, and bring attention to the image. It's well centered. The white color actually surprises me that it's still this sharp from being in the pack since 1978. So that's actually pretty impressive. These are nice and thick cards too. They're a little thicker than normal cards at the time. Some of the cutting edge is a little rough. You got to be aware of that. But the corners are nice and sharp still. The centering is really good. Just every now and then the cutting tool didn't do a real great job on the edge, and there'll be a little bit of perforation there. Other than that, these are really nice. These are actually some of the best cards from the time, I think. Just because they did a lot with what little you're actually seeing. There's not a lot of colors on here other than in the image. The image is slightly washed out, which it's, normal for the time period. But the use of the white on here is really good. They didn't have to put anything on the back. And it's actually a really thick card stock. So these are high quality cards, even though you're only getting 7 of them. So here we've got another card, and you'll notice the border's different. And you'll see a lot of different borders with these. And this is from one of his movies, I believe. Yeah, it's taken from the movie Charo, one of Elvis's most romantic roles. Co-star with Ina Balin. The film was released in 1969. So you get little Elvis factoids, which was really cool. Souvenir magazines and stuff like that were real big at the time, but this is nice little factoids. And again, you can see the edge has some perforation issues on one side. The other sides look fine. But overall, it's actually still in really nice shape. Then we've got card number 34. And this one's one of the weaker ones. It's an action shot though, so it's a little brighter. Got some nice color contrast. The bordering really draws attention to it. We've got number 44. That's what's military photos. Number 58. And of course most of these are black and white. A lot of his career was in black and white era. So then we've got number 27. And then we've got number 6. And a lot of these have different Elvis facts on the back, like talking about his first Cadillac that he bought. I think he was a big Cadillac fan. But you can see this one is slightly discolored where the gum was stuck to it at the bottom here. It's got some brown right through here. And you can feel where the gum was. And it's a little rough from the absorption of the moisture of the gum. That's more of a time thing. It didn't do that as much at the time unless these were stored in like a really warm environment. Then the gum would stick to them and leave that residue. So it's actually more a product of time and aging in the pack than anything else. Usually, if you got them new, it would have the white confectioner sugar, and you could just sweep most of it off, and there would be some pebbling on here, but not nearly what it looks like now. And the discoloration was nowhere near as bad. So let's look at our second pack. Ooh, that opened really easily. Ooh, this one looks really nice. Not as much discoloration, no perforations. The red still pops really well under decent lighting. So you could probably, if you were so inclined, you could probably frame this and mat it around where the card was and still get the word Elvis in there easily and most of him. So that could look kind of cool as like a souvenir type thing. Now this time the gum is stuck to the back of a card. And we'll see the discoloration more if I can get the gum off. probably going to end up destroying this card. So, don't know what number it is, but it's actually a pretty cool photo. The border, again, you can see the rough perforation on one side. All of them seem to have that so far, or at least the vast majority of them. There's a couple that aren't too bad. But let's see if I can get this gum off and how bad I'm going to rip the card doing it. I mean, 40-year-old gum is not really something you want to handle too much because it's gross and it makes your hands feel weird. Yeah, I'm going to tear this. Fortunately, there may not be a way around it. There are methods of getting this off, but I'm not doing them, obviously. Wow, it's card number 46. You can see the massive discoloration where this is really sunken in here. And it leaves a little residue everywhere. But yeah, it's a nice looking image. These would look really cool framed. It has sort of this frame around it already, so putting a bunch of them together and matting them could look really cool. With the previous ones we looked at from 1992, those were really nice cards too, and quality does not go by the wayside with a lot of these officially released products. Yeah, the card got torn a little bit. Not as bad as it could have. It's one thing that's always been good about the Elvis estate is they don't tend to put out crap. So that these are really high quality cards. It's a shame this one got so deformed, and you can see I tore part of it here. Not as bad as I've done previously, but you know, you win some, you lose some. Tearing them's always a loss because the card is effectively worthless then. Somebody could still use the front image for a frame or something like that, but this discoloration and the fact that it's torn ruins any potential value. So here's card number 22 and card number 54. Card number 7. Now you'll notice this one isn't centered properly. This doesn't happen too much with these cards, but it happens with every card. Every line of trading cards has some sort of defects. It's just unavoidable, unfortunately. So there's always going to be some manufacturing error somewhere down the line. A lot of these got caught at the printer and they don't normally go out. This one's not too bad. It's just a little bit off. You can see that little bit of white here that's not here. It's more noticeable on the back where the rounded edge goes down to nothing and it just sort of vanishes, where there should be a little bit of white visible. So it's just slightly jogged down. Not that bad, but it would hurt it if you were getting it graded. And that's a shame. That's a classic image of Elvis. We've got number 63 here from his Hawaii time. Number 61. Another later one. And then number 13. Elvis fact. Elvis had 39 gold records and sold about 250 million copies. His first record was That's All Right Mama, and his last ironically was named Way Down. And this is card number 13. So yeah, these are really nice cards. The condition have held up really well, considering they were in the pack. I did ruin one of the cards, and there's some discoloration on two. One that I ruined, and the other one. But the corners are still pretty sharp. It's nice, thick card stock. Better than most non-sport cards at the time. Some of the sports cards are about on par with this, but this is even better than a lot of those. So these were definitely premium type cards for the time period, and considering they're 40 years old, the color is still really vibrant. The white is still really good on most of them, except for the ones that had the gum. Then it's gross. But yeah, the images are still great. If you're an Elvis fan, you'll definitely want to look into getting a set of these because these are really cool looking. Have a very 70s feel to it, but you could probably frame them or just have them as a set, whatever. I don't know what people do with their collectibles. Not really my business. But as far as Elvis collectibles go, this is definitely a cool one. And it's got a lot of classic images of Elvis and probably a few that you haven't seen in a long time, if at all. Just by the sheer volume. And it's only a 66 card set, so tracking down a set shouldn't be too difficult. Might be a little expensive. These packs go for at least $5. Typically, if you find them cheaper than that, you might want to consider picking them up. Don't chew the gum. It's gross. But if you can track down a set of these, I think it'd be worth it. And if you're into wax wrappers, it's a pretty cool one to get. But yeah, it's got a real 70s feel, but it's a vintage kind of collectible that I think Elvis fans would really enjoy. But that'll do it for this episode. As always, thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. As always, thank you. And we hope to see you on the next episode of What's Inside.